everyone. This is Michelle with Fourlane. I'm going to be presenting today on the topic of QuickBooks reports. So let's go ahead and dive right in. We're going to go through the basics of reports, and we'll talk about some effectiveness, the types of reports, how to customize, all the good stuff. So first, let's start with how QuickBooks Desktop helps, right? As far as reporting needs, QuickBooks has a lot to offer as far as pre-built reports already in the software. It's a matter of just going to the menu and pulling up some default reports that are very helpful for businesses. Not only do you have the default of reports, but you can customize them to fit specific needs. So that can make it even better and give you more relevancy specific to your business. And it's pretty user-friendly. So it's pretty straightforward, easy to use, easy to pull up and go through. And we're going to go ahead and take a look at some of those today. I always want to take a moment to talk about why, the why behind it. Why is it important that we know about reports and know how to use them? Well, there's several reasons that come to mind. It helps with accuracy of your financials. Using reports is going to help you put that data together in a visual format that can help you know that everything's been recorded, that everything is true and accurate for the information in the reports. It guides that piece. Helps with decision making. Provides critical data that helps business owners and managers to make informed financial decisions, right? Think in terms of their net profit, for example. Compliance. Many businesses have specific reporting requirements they need to provide to boards and such. So compliance is definitely a piece of it. Performance tracking helps in monitoring the business performance, identify trends, and therefore you can make some necessary adjustments. Personally, for performance tracking, I prefer the graphical interfaces, kind of like this picture that I've included here on the slide, which is also an option. So that kind of helps to see what is going on in the books, nice and easy. Okay, so what kind of reports are there? Well, I've got this broken out in several pages, but the first thing I want to break out is QuickBooks, of course, is going to provide the reports for your basic financials. These are the reports that most businesses want to see day in and day out. These are your standard reports. You've got your profit and loss, also called income statement, your balance sheet report, and cash flow statement as well. Kind of see by the images that I've included here, the basic layout that is used. It's organized pretty easily. You can set it up to be header and subheaders to help get you those subtotals and get everything in the order that you want. In addition to your standard reports, there's several different categories, and there's just hundreds, so it wouldn't be feasible for me to list everything. But some of the basic categories would be like customer and sales reports. So that's what's going to be like your accounts receivable, for example. It might be your sales by customer, might be your total sales. That you're going to find under your customer and receivables section. Likewise, you have vendors and expenses. That's going to be the AP side. So you would find your AP summary. You would find accounts payable detail. You would find expenses by vendor, sales like items for the vendor. It's all those vendor and expense reports are going to be under that tab, and there's a lot included there. We've got a tab for employee and payroll reports. That would be kind of what you would expect, specifically like your payroll journals, payroll summary, payroll item detail, earnings per employee, your payroll liability reports. That is all going to be found under employee and payroll. Then you'll have your inventory reports. So sales by item would be there, your inventory numbers, your inventory valuation summary, quantity on hand, all of that is going to be found under inventory. Banking is going to show like deposits detail. You can have checking or check detail. Of course, all of the reconciliations are going to be in there that you'd find under banking. Accountant and taxes. That is where you're going to find like transaction level reports, like transaction detail. You'll find your audit report. You'll find your trial balances. You'll find tax reports in there. So it's very helpful reports to go see. And I'd recommend to everyone to take some time and just scroll through the reports to get a good feel of what all is there. Now note, you can kind of see here in the examples that I've included, the images, that if you go to the payroll report center itself, which is where I pulled these images from, in addition to having standard reports, there's also a tab for memorized reports, favored reports, recent reports, and contributed reports. So standard is going to be the native reports. It's going to be what is in QuickBooks right now, right? You open the software, what is included from day one. Memorized, we'll talk about this a little bit in the next few minutes, but as you go through QuickBooks and you are modifying reports, you might want to memorize them. And when you do, that's where it's going to show up under this tab for memorize, so you can easily find it again. Favorites, you can star the reports so that you can easily go back to them and find them, since there are so many to go through. Recent, anything you open recently, and contributed, if other people have added some reports, they can show up there. Okay, let's keep moving. So how do you access it? First step, go into QuickBooks Desktop. At the top tabs, you will see different categories. You will look for the Reports tab. Under that, you can see the Reports menu as well. And then you can scroll down and select your report category. So here's a sample of the different categories that show under Reports, many of which I've already identified. I'll also bring your attention here, if we look through it, you'll see additional tabs here for jobs, time, and mileage, which is great for finding those job costing reports. You'll see budgets and forecasts. So if you want to create a budget for your company or a forecast for different scenarios, there are reports that you can generate for that. Reports for list data. List data would be like your customer list, your vendor list, your chart of accounts, your item list, that kind of information. And then at the very bottom, you will see some specific industry types. These are pulling specifically with general info. I'm sorry, let me try that again. These are pulling different industries because I'm in an accountant's version, and so we could go into different ones. So depending on whether or not you have the general edition, or if you have like a contractor edition, manufacturing, professional service, whatever edition you have, you'll have different reports specific to those industries as well. So getting back to kind of how to access it, again, you go to the Reports menu, the Reports tab, you select the category, and as you do, more of those specific reports will show up. You select which one you want, and then it will launch, and then you'll go ahead and customize as you need. Okay, so how do we customize the report? All right, so our first step, you're going to open that report. In the upper left-hand corner, which you'll see in this very top image, there is a tab called Customize Report. That is what you're going to select, okay? From here, you'll have several options, and these images progress through these options, so I will kind of talk through these. So the first option page you'll see is for display. So these are the different options for that specific report, because they are different depending on which report you're in, on what information can be displayed. So the first piece here, which is pretty straightforward, is the dates. What dates do you want this report to encompass data from? So just make sure you've got the correct dates in there. Then you can select the basis. Are you looking for an accrual report or a cash basis? Okay. You'll see next down, we're talking columns. How do you want your columns to display? In this option, we selected total only, but you'll see the drop-down menu. And if you selected the drop-down menu, you'd be able to select the different options. Typically, you'll see stuff like by month, quarter, year, total. Those are the typical columns. But again, it's going to depend on the report you're in, what's going to show. You don't need to worry about memorizing that or knowing exactly, because all you need to do is hit the down arrow and you'll see exactly what is available. Note in this one, and this was from a profit and loss report, you can add sub-columns for previous period, previous year, year to date. When it says previous period, it's going to include a second column so that you can compare the numbers from the previous period. The previous period would be whatever you selected for the date. So, for example, if you selected one day, the previous period would be the day before. If you selected 1 month, the previous period would be the prior month. If you selected a year, it would be the prior year for the same time frame. So if it was January to March, it'd be January to March last year. So that was what it means by previous period. Previous year, and then you have year to date, pretty standard. Notice you can include a dollar change or also a percentage change. Just depends on what you want to see. In this report, you have the option to select ascending order or descending order. So you can play around with that and see what makes the most sense to you. You can also add subcolumns for percentage. So in a profit and loss, you can do a percentage of the row. You can do a percentage of the income, which I use often, especially looking at those expenses. I want to know what percent of the income it is, a percent of the column or a percent of the expense. So again, the easiest way to do it is just kind of click those buttons and see how it presents, see if that's something that you like the data for. Okay, moving on. The next column, next tab is filters, and this is a very important one and gives you a lot of power in customizing reports. Under filters, you are able to take this data and break it into a smaller chunk, okay? So let's say you have 50 different classes, but you only want to see data for one class. The way to do it is to filter it. How does that happen? You come over, you can see the image to the right where it says modify report, and you'll see the filter selected. To the left, all of these options you can choose from. So you can filter for a specific account, filter for aging, what the aging is, filter for amount, and it will tell you, greater than, less than, billing status, class, and this is in alphabetical order, so there's a lot more that you can choose from. Customer will be in there if you want to do it by specific customer, specific vendor, depends on the report. Account is used frequently, class is used frequently, so those are the more common ones. I also used cleared, whether or not it was a reconciled transaction frequently, so different ones that you can choose. Once you select or highlight what you're looking to filter for, it will pull the data over here right next to it. So in this case, account was selected, so it is pulling the accounts. You would use the drop-down arrow to further select which account it is you want to filter for. You can also choose multiple. And then once you select, you can see in this example, we selected 15100 for vehicles. You see it tells you what the filter choice is and your date, and then you hit OK. That will have the filter set for you. If you need to go back, you just hit go back to the filter and change it. The easiest thing to do is just select where it shows your current filter choices and delete it or remove it. Hit the remove button and it'll remove that filter for you. And then you can change it up, whatever it is you need to do. The other two tabs are used less frequently, but want you to be aware of them. You have a header and footer, so you can change the way the company name reads, the different way you want to maybe change the report title. Maybe we want to do profit and loss for vehicles only, since we filtered for vehicles. You can choose for the subtitle. You can see the date prepared, all the different options here that are going to show up on the report itself. And it'll give you a little screenshot of kind of what that's going to look like. Likewise, you have the fonts and numbers, so you can change the fonts around and the number format. Big tip here, if you spend some time on modifying this report, customizing things to see things the way you want, make sure you hit Save Customization. Remember how I told you it would go under, you have memorized reports? That is where it would now show. And then if you ever want to get to the same settings that you created here, all you need to do is go to that report and run it. You don't have to set this all up again. So far, everything I have talked about so far has been the standard reports that are native to QuickBooks, that are easy to pull up. You go to the Reports tab, you pull it down, they're there. You can customize it, but that's what options you have. Wanted to take a moment and let you know that there is an advanced reporting feature in QuickBooks, which we refer to as QBAR, but it's QuickBooks Advanced Reporting. This is built on a different platform. It is meant for analytics, primarily. It is pretty complex. It requires a little bit of coding, but it also opens up the world of reporting immensely. You can take this to a very granular level to create any reports that you need, but they're not easy to generate. This list that I have here shows you some of the ones that are available as a standard, just pulling it up. And this is one of the ones, the cost of product and services. This image shows you what one of these reports looks like, okay? So pulling it up from their standard reports is the easiest way to do it. It's very specific. You can customize completely every element of the report, but customization is complex. And that takes a little bit of doing. There is, again, some coding involved, but Fourlane does work with QBAR. We have some specialists on our team that can design these for you, and we have some that we've already built. So if you get into QuickBooks and you are going through the native reports and you just cannot find a report that encompasses all of the elements that you need, reach out. We might be able to do something with you, for you, through QBAR. Okay, so let me just take a few moments to talk about some hints and tricks of the trade. As far as reporting, you want to regularly review and update them. So maybe you've created some memorized reports. Make sure when you pull it up, you are changing the date profile, so you're keeping it updated. If you are using reports regularly, especially for trends and analyzing the profits or different KPI measures of your business, you want to make sure you're looking at these regularly. Also, don't forget that it's only going to reflect the data that has been entered. So making sure all the data that has been entered is accurate and up to date is very important, right? It's only going to give as good as it got, right? Use memorized reports for efficiency. Like I said, it's a very helpful hint. It is a great tool to use, memorizing these custom reports, so you don't have to keep going back and changing your settings, changing your filters, or trying to find how you got that data again. It's going to just save you a lot of time. Okay. Leverage these reports for strategic decision making. You'll also see in these reports you have options for graphs, right? Use them. A lot of people are more visual than than just straight numbers. So sometimes seeing the visual chart or graph can help display what is going on in your file. It just brings it home. So don't be afraid to use the graphical options. I find it helpful specifically when you're looking at trends, just to have the graphs shows what has been going on. It just helps to identify those patterns. QuickBooks also has some benchmarking ability, so you can look at your financial data against industry standards. Of course, you can look at it against your historical performance. All of this is going to help you to evaluate how your business is doing and if it's moving in the direction that you want it to be. It gives you actionable insights, so it's going to help translate the report into strategic actions, such as adjusting the budgets, optimizing expenses, or expanding profitable areas. So for example, if you can put together some customized reports, especially some graphical ones that show you which items are the most profitable, that's going to help you expand those areas, right? Or if you can compare your expenses against the income, and you're going to know what does your trend line look like. Use the budgets too. QuickBooks has budgets, and we've talked about this in the past. In fact, I did a webinar not too long ago on creating budgets, and those are very helpful, especially when you start looking at your budget to actuals, what has actually happened. My point is to use these reports to help you make business decisions. So that pretty much concludes reports. They're pretty straightforward. Biggest takeaway, go in them and play around with the customization features. Look at the reports available. Just take some time, spend some time diving into it and seeing what makes sense for you. It has been my pleasure to present this to you. I hope you've gotten some good takeaways. If you have any questions, please go ahead and post them in the chat. We will follow up with you to respond. And this is my email. Feel free to take it down and email me if you need any help or have any questions.